All right, folks, here we go. The opening line report for Week 13 in the NFL. Brian Blessing, thrilled to be with you right here at VegasInsider.com. Now, of course, we've got, at the time of this taping, not played yet, Seattle and Philly, and then, of course, the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game that got moved to Tuesday, which means that the Dallas-Baltimore game becomes another Monday night game next week, in Baltimore, an advanced line, 7.5-point favorites against the Baltimore Ravens. Let's again lay the parameters out. We give you an advanced number before the games were played, the opener, where we think the numbers are going to go. Let's go. New Orleans, Atlanta. This is interesting. New Orleans, 3.5-point favorite, totals 47.5. Both teams, very comfortable wins. New Orleans beats Denver, who didn't have a quarterback. Taysom Hill, run, pass, the dual threat. It's working quite well, and the defense is really solid right now. The Saints quietly having just another terrific year. Breeze is out, but just like last year with Bridgewater came in, they kept winning. They're winning with Taysom Hill. But Atlanta, now with Raheem Morris as the head coach, this team's 4-2 under his guidance, and they took the Raiders to the woodshed. Now, we warned you last week about the Raiders having a letdown, said they'd have been better off getting mauled by KC instead of the heartbreaking loss. Sure enough, letdown spot, but that was an embarrassment. But Atlanta got the job done. Ryan didn't light it up by any stretch of the imagination, and they took the Raiders to the woodshed with Julio Jones and Todd Gurley out of the lineup. They get these guys back. New Orleans, Atlanta, I don't care who the quarterbacks are, indoors, fast track. It's usually who has the ball last, and track meet. I look for this total to go up. I think you'll see points in this game. Indoors, fast track, 47.5. I think this total gets up to 48.5, maybe even pushes 49. Then Detroit and Chicago. Wow. There was no number that was really out on this game. Detroit, they get pumped by Green Bay on Sunday night. The advanced line was Chicago 3.5, but Trubisky comes in no better than Nick Foles. And the Bears defense kind of a no-show against Aaron Rodgers. Detroit does get extra time to prepare off Thanksgiving Day. And with a new head coach, Matt Patricia, finally shown the door. Two teams, obviously, heading in the wrong direction. This is a really good game. 2 8-3 teams, Cleveland and Tennessee. Tennessee, the opening number was 3.5. We're looking at 4 now. The total's 52.5. Cleveland survives against the Jags. Bottom line is you win in advance, and good teams find ways to win when they're not playing their best. And Marone should have never gone for 2 the one time, or the Jags maybe could have won that game. That being said, Mayfield was solid. Nick Chubb is running like a beast. And all of a sudden now you got Jarvis Landry chipping in. It's life after OBJ. But the Browns are winning football games. The one thing I would say, we were all over Tennessee in this spot last week. Said it was similar to Seattle having to beat Arizona in the rematch game or they wouldn't win the division. Well, Tennessee lost to Indy 2 weeks ago, had to win that game on the road or the division was likely lost. Now they win it and they're right there, and it's a horse race. But Tennessee, back-to-back weeks on the road, beat Baltimore and Indy. Watch out. This could be a sneaky little letdown spot. And I don't know, something tells me this won't be the kind of track meet that you saw in that Tennessee-Indy game. Maybe a little closer to the vest, a little letdown spot, maybe a little lower scoring. Cincinnati, Miami. Miami, 10.5-point favorite was the opener. It's up to 11.5. And the total on the game, 42.5. Cincinnati, with Allen running the show at quarterback, it wasn't very good. But Cincinnati just plays hard and they play tough. And that punch to the gut of losing Burrow, another week of practice, and they realize the die's been cast here, but it is a team that competes and play hard. And Miami, hard-fought game against the Jets, a division game, they won relatively easily, 20-3. But Fitzpatrick was the quarterback. It's all about Miami's defense. Again, you look at this total, 42.5. It's almost approaching a preseason total there. We said last week, look, where are the points going to come from? In the Bengals game, the points didn't come. Where are the points going to come from in this game? I can see this total maybe coming down a half point. 42 maybe would be the closing number there. Jacksonville's in Minnesota. Mike Glennon was a quarterback, and, he went 20 of 35, threw a couple of touchdowns. Jags competed hard in that game. They came up short They really did have an opportunity to get the W in that game against the Browns, but they are playing hard. Give them that. The one thing with the Jags, though, it's 1 week good, 1 week horrific. You never know. Minnesota, the number was 9. It opens up at 9.5. The total here is 49.5. Again, you get Cook's a monster. Minnesota literally survives the game against Carolina, but they get the win nonetheless. Vegas and the Jets. Wow. Vegas opened up 8. It's down to 7.5, and all that tells you is how bad the Jets are. The Jets are 0-11. The Raiders were mortally embarrassed. Now, what they had planned on doing was staying on the East Coast, but because of COVID, they're flying all the way back to Vegas, training, flying back to take on the Jets. The Jets are going to play hard, try to avoid the embarrassment of a winless season. Is this necessarily the spot? Most likely not. It will be a tough week of practice for the Raiders because they were a no-show. Derek Carr had a brutal game. No running game, no nothing. It was a completely wasted trip to Atlanta. Gruden, none too happy, rest assured of that. Total on this game, 47.5. The Raiders secondary is always dealing with guys that get nicked up going in, and then it seems like they're always getting hurt during the course of games. The total's a little bit interesting here. I think the Raiders bounce back in a big way offensively, but I still think the defense can be suspect. You might sneakily see some points in that game, even though it's a Jets game. Washington's at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh opened 11. It's down to 10. Pittsburgh, again, has to play Tuesday, so you're getting a short work week here for the Steelers, who've had their schedule altered several times this year. They're none too happy about it. But listen, Washington beats Dallas Thanksgiving Day. We know what a mess the NFC East is. Daniel Jones nicked up for the Giants. Now Washington is in the hunt, and they are playing hard. The defense plays hard. Gibson, the running back, stepping up. McLaurin's pretty good. Again, for Pittsburgh, I would say this, because I would say this about the Bills. I mean, Pittsburgh's like the big dog here, the unbeaten team, and they're likely going to get by at the time of this tape. Likely going to get by a depleted Baltimore team because all the COVID positive tests. That we get a look-ahead spot here for Pittsburgh that he played Buffalo on a Sunday night the following week. Honestly, Buffalo should be looking ahead to Pittsburgh. That may be the bigger deal than this, but Pittsburgh looking ahead to a little revenge because the Bills beat them on a Sunday night last year. Let's go to Indianapolis and Houston. Houston's won a couple of games in a row. Indy, the advanced number was 3.5. It opens 2.5. Total on the game, 53.5. The one thing with Indianapolis, they've got real concerns injury-wise on the offensive line. Tennessee ran all over them. And that was just a bad spot for Indy. It really was. Tennessee had to play that game like a playoff game. They did, and Derrick Henry showed up in a big way. And by the way, get the crystal ball out. We always say don't go overreact to what you last witnessed. You always want to be looking ahead. And looking ahead, I think this Indy team, if Indy played Tennessee 5 times, they'd split. But looking ahead, I think Indy can come out of the AFC. But Tennessee is the matchup nightmare because of what you saw with Henry. They can run the ball. They can run it down your throat. And if Tennessee played that game like a playoff game, that's what they did last year and came up just short of going to the Super Bowl. But for Houston, Deshaun Watson and Fuller, they got something cooking now. Feeling a little bit better about themselves. Honestly, 53.5, based on what we just saw with Indy and the points they were giving up, this could turn into a bit of a track meet. Look at that total, maybe to go up a point, up to 54.5. Rams in Arizona. This one's interesting because the favorites flopped around. Arizona was a 1-point favorite prior to the games being played. The Rams lose to the Niners. Hard-fought defensive battle, but they end up being a 1.5-point favorite, total 49, because Arizona loses to New England. Now, here's the deal with Arizona. They've lost 3 of the last 4. You want to make the case they've lost 4 in a row because Hopkins gets the miracle catch on the Hail Mary. They were beat. Things have gone pear-shaped here for Arizona. And Belichick's Belichick. He took Hopkins away, and they contained Murray. That's Belichick. Now other teams get it on tape. They can try to do the same thing. The Rams, I don't know. The Niners maybe have their number. Their defense played great with Donald and Ramsey. That's a pay-per-view event, by the way, in this game. Ramsey guarding Hopkins. The Rams defense, one of the best defenses in the league. That's the edge for the Rams. And I think even though they both lost, a better opinion formed on the Rams here. In fact, I could even see that number going up maybe a point, maybe 2.5. I don't know that it ever gets to 3. Total in the game is 49. Giants are at Seattle. Now, again, Daniel Jones had a hamstring, got pulled out of the game in the second half. Colt McCoy, he's been around the block, give him a full week's worth of practice. He's not like the kid that you just saw play for Denver at the quarterback position. I mean, McCoy can play a little bit. He was one of the preseason mavens every year. Preseason, remember that? They used to play, as a concept, they used to play games before a season. It was called preseason. Many moons ago, they used to play preseason in the NFL. It was like a year ago. Anyway, COVID. We're all getting dizzy. All right. Seattle is 7.5 was the opener. It's up to 9, and they haven't even played the Monday night game yet because you're looking at McCoy. But Seattle is, let's see if they take care of business on the road against Philly. Back-to-back weeks playing NFC East teams. Seattle, they played the game they had to win. They beat Arizona, and all of a sudden they get a nice weak schedule here on the way in. That number's opening 9. 10 probably surfaces, maybe even higher. If you like Seattle, bet them early. If you like the Giants, wait it out. Philly, Green Bay, 6.5 was the projected number. It's believe me, it's 7.5. This number's going to probably go on the rise. Let's see what Philly does. Does Jalen Hurts play for Philly, or is it Carson Wentz? But Green Bay takes Chicago to the woodshed on Sunday night. They look terrific, and this number is only going to go on the rise. And I just don't know what's going on with Philadelphia. It's beyond belief. Carson Wentz, a shadow of himself. Miles Sanders is back, but they just can't generate anything offensively. Let's see if they can turn around against Seattle. Obviously, we've taped this before the Monday night game. New England and the Chargers. The Chargers open up 1.5. It's down to 1. Total's 49. Chargers fought with the Bills to the bitter end, but it was more a function of the Bills letting the Chargers hang around. A couple of goofy fumbles by the Bills, and Buffalo's defense stepped up big, stopped the 4th and 1, forced a fumble in the second half. Bills had a big lead, let it get away. But the Chargers did fight. But I got Anthony Lynn. I don't know what this guy's doing, managing the clock at the end of the game. There were a couple of really questionable things. They're losing all these painful games. So creative how they find ways to lose. And a lot of it's just like, what's the game management on the sidelines? But Herbert looks really good. And he's got a nice batch of weapons. And Eckler's back. Another week under his belt. He could play pretty well. Tough travel for New England here. By the way, they get the dramatic win. Folk with the 50-yarder wins it over Arizona. But the Patriots, 5-6, breathing. I mean, they're breathing because the other teams are going to start to cannibalize each other in the other divisions, and they're only a couple of games back for that 7 seed. And the total on the game was 49. Then Denver at KC. KC 13-point favorite. Man, what a start to a game. KC, Tyreek Hill on fire. Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, Edwards-Helaire, the weapons. They jumped all over Tampa Bay. To Tampa Bay's credit, they came back and, made it moderately interesting. But, boy, again, Kansas City, you watch these games. I mean, sometimes they don't necessarily cover. They're like a kitten pawing around with a little toy at times. But they always find a way to get it done. But Denver, we're waiting to see. The quarterback should be back. It was a one-off where all 3 quarterbacks were out. And I would imagine you probably see, Locke gets back in there. And then the Monday night game. Buffalo, there's 2, don't forget, right? We mentioned Dallas, Baltimore. But Buffalo opened 2.5, or that was the advanced line. It opens 3. Bills at 8-3. San Francisco, give them full marks. They circled the wagons. It was a must-win against the Rams to keep any hope of the playoffs alive. And they've just been beset by injuries all year long. Mullins played okay. Mostert's back in the lineup. Deebo Samuel's, of course. And the defense played really good. Emotional game goes right down to the wire. Gould wins it at the horn.